Welcome to the Heart of Money podcast, where we discuss the personal and emotional elements of money and the impact that money has on every area of your life. I'm Austin Black, a personal finance coach that helps couples overcome their fear and frustration of financial management so they can take complete control of their money. What started as a desire to learn the fundamentals of money management has turned into a passion for helping couples work together to achieve financial success and strengthen their relationship with each other. Whether you're looking for the best strategies to manage your money as a couple, or you're tired of struggling to gain traction and want to overcome the fear and frustration associated with finances, I'm here to help, and this show is for you. Ready to learn more? Then let's talk about the heart of money. Hey folks, most people believe that in order to do anything successful with money, you either have to make a lot of it or spend as little of it as possible. And yeah, both of those are helpful, but they are not the key to becoming financially secure and independent. But there is a secret that I'm going to teach you of how to become debt-free and have financial security without the need for a huge income or restrictive lifestyle. I'm going to walk you through these strategies in my upcoming masterclass, the Financial Freedom Blueprint, which I'm hosting live once a month. And I want to personally invite you to join me in the next class. You can find out more details and sign up at freedommoneycoach.com/training. In this class, I'm going to teach you how to get on the same page with your spouse, how to take control of your money, and how to manage your behavior to accomplish your financial goals for the rest of your life. So head on over to freedommoneycoach.com/training, sign up, and join me on my next live masterclass. I look forward to seeing you next month. Hey folks, welcome back to the Heart of Money, episode 93. I am your host, Austin Black, and I'm joined by two amazing individuals, James and Amberlee Rich. They are professional money coaches who love helping people experience less financial stress and more confidence with their money, which I think is outstanding. This husband and wife team are the founders of Rich Living Coaching, the Debt Dump Challenge, and the Steward Lab, which is a Christian self-paced money coaching program. They love connecting with their two kids, reading, hiking, and playing board games. Guys, welcome to the show today. Thanks so much for being on the Heart of Money.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
This is going to be, I think, an interesting conversation from multiple levels. Number one, I have never had a man and woman both as guests, so I know we're going to get some, differing just vocabulary and viewpoints and everything, which I love because I work with couples. That's why I work with couples. Is it's such a dynamic whenever you have a husband and a wife combination. But I also know that you guys have been doing this for a while and kind of have a unique perspective around money management, around finances, and a unique audience too, if I recall. So I'm really excited to see kind of what all would come to the surface with on this. But why don't you just start off kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and your business and what you're doing with Coaches these days.
All right. Well, I'm James. This is my lovely wife, Amberlee. We have been coaching, I don't know, like unofficially, probably for like 18, 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been coaching people before we even realized
it was coaching.
It was a thing. So it started out, I was on staff with a missions organization in college, and my whole job was to meet with students one-on-one and help them get through college. And what I found very quickly was the fact that most college students have no clue what to do with finances. And so a lot of them came to college, they either got jobs or were living off of loans. And it was their first time that they actually had an opportunity to interact with their money in a capacity that they got to choose where it went. And what they found is a lot of times they didn't get to choose where it went because they made decisions and now it had to go to these certain places because of a decision they made a while back. And so I just found on a weekly basis, I started meeting with one person after another. And that's what got me into financial coaching. I started helping people just put together a little budget, figure out where's your money going, help them gain clarity. Meanwhile, Amberlee was a student and she was all up in couponing at that time.
I was. Yeah, I was a crazy couponer before they had all those couponing shows. And I taught classes on how to save money, and it was really good until they did shows about it. And then it was like all the secrets were out, and it was a game to me. And then I realized like, this is not worth my time or my effort anymore. So I'm not a crazy couponer anymore. but I always loved helping. I was a teacher. I helped the fellow teachers how to handle their finances. I worked in middle school, and I was helping even those students be able to be prepared for going to college and how to pay for it, and taking their ACTs multiple times, and ways to get scholarships, and getting that information to them at a very young age, I felt was just so important. And really, in every aspect of our lives, we've always been helping people with their money. And it's just been something that we've just really felt like a calling on our lives, and something that we've loved to help people with.
It doesn't hurt that our last name's Rich. So
it's true.
That has been a little bit of a benefit.
That is true, yes.
We're the Rich family. We'll help you do the same.
Right. That's awesome. And you guys, you work with pastors now, is that right?
So that's a big subset of who we work with. We are part of a grant that pays for us to help these pastors. And right now we have
28
couples that are pastors, and it's such a different dynamic because it's kind of one of those weird things where, like, normally when we're talking with a couple and it's an income problem, because there really is, there's income problem and there's a spending problem, and sometimes it's both. But in this case, like when it's an income problem, it's hard to go to the board and be like, hey, I want to raise. Because for some, it's like they know that there's not a lot there anyway. And them getting a raise directly affects where that money can go in terms of helping their community. And so there's just this weird dynamic and struggle for pastors to make a living wage and get to a place where they can actively, progress their finances in a way that's beneficial for themselves.
Yeah, and be able to be sustaining that position. Like, if they're not able to make ends meet, it's really hard to continue a life of ministry full time without having to take on extra responsibilities and extra jobs, which then can make it harder to actually serve in their congregation.
100%, yeah. As I was gonna kind of contrast, you guys are going from working with kids and college kids to pastors, but obviously that's not the full story there. So that's interesting. But yeah, you're right. So I'm a pastor's kid myself, and growing up, Dad never just was a pastor. He always had at least 2 other jobs, just because you just don't make enough in the ministry typically, and even especially with a small country church like he's been a part of always. So can very much understand those difficulties of, you're trying to accomplish your goals, you're trying to be smart with money, but you have kind of a cap on what you're able to work with, and getting more than that is not always easy. So absolutely understand that.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this group of pastors is that the organization that they're a part of, the church group that they're a part of, the national office, they started doing some studies just to see, and this specific church tends to find itself going to the poorest areas and setting up shop, and as most people understand, like, churches don't just have like this influx of cash. It's the people that go there that that kind of like give offering, and usually when you're going to an area of the city that's poor, those that don't have as much money are going to be attending, and so the offerings are going to be smaller naturally. And so at a national level, this church organization found that their pastors are paid 25% less than the national average of pastors, and so that's why they went into finding unique ways of helping these pastors, and they got a grant that would pay us to help coach them. And so right now we have got 28. I think in January or February we might get another 18 or 20 or so added on to that. That's awesome. And so it's just been a phenomenal thing, and seeing the transformation of somebody who's not making a lot of money, and us putting systems into place and getting them to a place where they can actually make progress. The biggest thing is, especially those that are not making a lot of money and they're not funding their goals, they start like really beating themselves up. Like, oh, I'm so bad at this. Like, I'm terrible. It becomes an identity thing. Like, they at an identity level, they're thinking, I am just terrible with money. But then once we can sit down with them and help them understand that they're not the problem, but their system is the problem, we start implementing system. And as soon as the system is up and running, you give them 2 or 3 months on that, and their identity starts to shift, and they start thinking, man, I'm actually not that bad at it. And being able to look at your system and saying the system was the problem. I didn't have the right system put in place. It gives them a lot of room to be okay with like kind of increasing in their abilities and their confidence, increasing confidence and decreasing stress, which is like our main thing that we do. Is if we can increase their confidence, it'll decrease their stress. So let's just figure out ways to increase their confidence.
Yeah. And for pastors to really get their own personal finances in shape, it has a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect them. It affects their congregation, and it affects their community. And so we just really love that we're able to help these people that really are in the epicenter in the Christian community to be able to really steward the resources God gives them well.
And I think you could really even take that concept, and I'm sure you guys probably experience this with the couple side as well. Couples who maybe have a lower income, or they've got a good income, but they are, under their perspective, bad with money, right? They're not managing it well. They don't feel like they have a lot of money. And you said something there that I thought was really interesting about their identity. So I think a lot of times we do experience clients of any kind where they don't think that they have the ability to do better, or that they aren't capable of that, whether it's they don't know how, or don't have the right tools and systems, or they just no one else around them does. So how could they be the singular person? Talk to me a little bit more about how you help people realize that it's not about you, it's about what you're working with to accomplish that.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that we do when we work with our clients is helping them recognize their financial wins. It's really easy to remember all the negative things we do in life. It's this negativity bias and recency bias that we remember all the bad things. Like we could have an amazing conversation and someone says one negative thing and we dwell on that negative thing. And the same thing goes with our money. If we're always just focusing on that one money mistake, that one time that, we bounced a check or whatever that might look like, we then play that script in our minds instead of realizing, hey, I paid my utilities on time. I'm a month ahead on paying my bills. Like all of those things, we just disregard. We just feel like, oh, we should just know how to do that. And so what we do is we spend time every time we meet with our clients, helping them recognize what are your financial wins you've had since we last met. And some of them could be really small and some of them are huge. I mean, I just had one this past week that they paid off $9,000 in credit card debt since I last met them a couple weeks before. And it's just, sometimes it's massive and sometimes it's small, but it's recognizing all those little things, and they compound, because when you're starting to look at those positive wins, then you start to change your thought about how you handle money. You're like, you start recognizing them as they come, and it just changes your identity.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just a matter of recognizing them, but also tracking them and keeping record of them, because it is so easy for us to forget. And Amberlee talked about this with the recency and negativity bias. And so true. Like we could have 12 positive things happen. And if at the beginning of those 12 things, one negative thing happened, we're going to skip over all of that positive stuff and we're going to focus on the negative, and we're going to completely forget about that other stuff. And so like Amberlee said, we track them, we actually write them down. And about 3 or 4 months into our coaching with our clients, we have one session that's the most powerful session, probably one of the most powerful sessions for almost all of our clients, where we just pull that document up, we read through every single win that they have. And it's really transformative, because even though they said this was a win, and even though that they knew we were writing it down, they haven't seen it all kind of play out. And they don't remember, like 3 months ago, like you were at a level 11 out of 10 stress, and now you're at a 7. They still feel that 7 stress, but they forgot, like they used to be out of this world stressed. And once we can read through that, we've had just like clients cry during that time, some just like this big epiphany. And it's pretty amazing. And the other thing that we do along with tracking wins is automating good financial behavior, because a lot of coaches will focus on behavior, which is good. They'll focus on habits, and they'll say, you need to do this thing over and over and over. You got to get into the habit of doing this. But we found out if you don't focus on habits, but you focus on automating good behavior, the habits will follow. And what I mean by that is 70 to 80% of good financial behavior can be automated. So paying your bills, putting away for retirement, paying extra on principal for your
credit cards
or your house or whatever it is. All of that can be automated. And what tends to happen is the individual that comes to us, they're saying all of this extra stuff that we're going to do, these goals that we want to do, we'll do at the end of the month with whatever's left over. There's not going to be anything left over. So we flip the script and we say, okay, we're going to start out with automating this good financial behavior at the beginning when the paycheck comes in, and then you're going to live off the rest. It does a couple of things. One, it reduces the shame of not being able to fund those things. I remember us working with a single mother, and she was just devastated at the end of every month because she said, at the end of the month, I am going to pay extra on my credit card. She could never do it. She said, no matter how much was in my account, whether it was a lot or a little bit, it would just vanish and go away. So we flipped that script and we automated extra towards payment as soon as her payment came in to herself. And she basically lived off this, like she said, when there was little, I lived off of little. When there was a lot, I lived off a lot. Well, now there was just a little bit less, and she lived off of that. And it changed the amount of guilt and shame that she had on herself for that. And then looking at 70 to 80% of your stuff doing good behavior, you get about 3 months in and you start looking around, you see that your debt has come down some, you see that your savings have increased, you see these activities that somebody that's good with money does, and it's all just happening natural. And now this changes something. There's that 20 to 30% of money that they're handling on a regular basis. When they see the rest of their money being handled in a way that's wise, they start realizing, I actually am good with money. And then those habits follow from that point. So they don't have to work on building habits. We work on their identity. Once the identity is set, then it's so much easier to do the habits because you see yourself as somebody who's good with money.
Absolutely. I think back to one of my clients I've been working with for over 2 years now, and his thought process and how he thought of himself and how he thought of his ability to manage with every good thing that he did, that just reaffirmed his future goals of, I'm not bad with money. I'm not stupid financially. I do have the ability to do this. And to the point where, now he is like, this is not who I am. I get giddy making debt payments. I get excited about having a financial conversation with my wife. Just so many things that before weren't even part of his personality at all. And I think you're exactly right, James. And the little things that we continually do over time make us who we are. And we can put that into every area of life, whether it's finances or our relationship with our wife or our kids or God or anything. Everything that we do on a daily basis makes us who we become and who we are, and that focus. And you mentioned looking past the negative things to focus on those positive elements. I've always said that your dashboard is way bigger than your rearview mirror for a reason. It's you're supposed to glance back at what you did, but you're supposed to keep looking ahead at what you can accomplish. And if you keep your sights focused on what's ahead, while acknowledging what's behind you, you're always going to keep moving forward. But if you keep looking back behind you, you're going to crash. It's just not going to work because you're so focused on what has happened that you've done wrong. So much good in that. I'm trying to think of where to even go from here because you had so many good points in that. Let's talk a little bit more about the combination of management and behavior, because I, like you said, a lot of coaches and myself included focus a ton on behavior management, which is what I call it, or implementing those habits, which plays into, I feel like, your identity. But to your point, there was a lot of tactical things that you can do that support that. At what point do you feel it is necessary to split from the purely working on how you're thinking, how you're acting, how you're talking, to now let's do things technically that can have a bigger impact on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you think I just went over to a friend's house yesterday and watched some basketball, and I don't do that often, but I did play basketball in high school, and the people that were the best at free throws were the ones that practiced the free throws. And so sometimes getting repetition in and actually getting the form and then feeling that, like, going through the whole process is really important. And so I'm not going to say that just working on identity is the only thing that you do. We also have to figure out those manual things, like play that out. Like let's say we've got everything situated, everything automated, and we have a client that's just like, I don't know, whenever I go in the store, I just go into this mode and like my brain shuts off and I just go in. And so maybe we sit down, we say, okay, let's imagine the scenario of you going in. What's the first thing you do? And we can actually like do the reps, throw those free throws before we get into the game and try it out. So we use an app for a lot of our clients called Cube Money, and it's one of the tools that we use to automate. Not all of our clients decide to use it, and that's fine. We can use other things, but those that do, it's like night and day difference between our clients that use it and that don't, that make progress. But there's a learning curve there. And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll set up the whole thing. It's like, imagine the cash envelope system, but all digital. So you have a debit card and you have your different cubes, you put your money in there, and then you turn that cube on. So one of our clients would go into a grocery store, they would open their grocery store cube, and now they have $58.73 on their card. Like immediately they spend that. And so what we'll do sometimes is we'll sit there and be like, okay, imagine you're going into the gas station, you're going to pay for gas. I want you to pull out your phone. How are you going to go about that? So there's this tactical side of it. It sounds super elementary, but there, again, it goes back to that thing of confidence. If you're not confident in what you do, you're going to pull out that credit card instead because it's quicker and easier, and you'll just do it. And helping them understand that, like, there's a reason for this friction. So it's just like the cash envelope system. The friction was you had to open that envelope, you had to look in there, and you have to see how much money is. And then you decide, okay, I'll pay for this much, I'll put this one back. It's the same thing with this digital version with Cube. But there's that friction, and sometimes not remembering that friction is there to help you. Just like your car example of the windshield being bigger than the rear view mirror. You also have a gas pedal and you have a brake pedal, and you can't just use a gas pedal all the time. What we try to do is we try to automate the good behavior and use cruise control on that. But then behaviors that we don't want our clients to do, or our clients don't want to do, that's where we start applying the brakes. We add the friction so it'll slow them down. And so these annoying little things of walking into the store, having to open up your app, having to push the button, actively see how much money you have to spend, and then base your decisions off of that, can be super frustrating at first. But it kind of makes me think, so you were listening to that podcast the other day. It was a sermon, and they were talking about discipline. Do you remember what they were talking about?
Discipline. No, I'm not sure exactly where you're going.
I guess it was more important to me than her. But they were talking about how discipline, a lot of people see discipline as like restriction. But
it brings freedom.
Yeah. So discipline brings freedom. And so these things that feel like that are discipline actions, like slowing down, turning on that cube, like those are things that can feel restrictive at first, but as you start doing it more and more, it actually brings freedom because you're making decisions based on the information that you actually have, not the information that you think you have.
Yeah, you have clarity on it.
Yeah.
Which makes a huge difference. A lot of times people make decisions based on what they think, and then they regret it because it's not actually a form of reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to try to do all of my spending and my budgeting in my head, and it didn't work. I thought I was spending way less than I actually was. And I had this perception that was just not even close to reality. And once I actually started putting pen and paper to it and paying attention to what was going on, I was shocked at how off I was. And I think it's important for us to step back and see, are the systems that we're setting up, that we're doing right now, are they actually working and serving us? Because most of us have some form or fashion of a system, but a lot of those systems are broken. A lot of them are not working well. There's a lot of clunkiness. It's causing so much headspace. I didn't realize how much information I was holding in my brain trying to calculate how much have I already spent on groceries this month. Right. And once I actually had a system that worked, I was able to just not have to carry that in my head all the time. I was able to have it freed up for so many other things. And that's that discipline that we have of really sticking to a spending plan that works for us has been so helpful in freeing up my mind and my mental space for the things that matter way more than where our money is going.
Yeah, lack of clarity.
100%.
So many of our clients, the lack of clarity that they have, they just borrow stress from things that aren't even there. So I think the client that I just finished up with before I got on with you today, I've been working with them for months, and they have their own business. And what's crazy is they have not been paying themselves consistently. Lots of business owners do this. They don't pay themselves consistently, which then wreaks havoc on their ability to pay their own bills. But they're just leaving all their money in their business account. And when I asked, like, why don't you pay yourself regularly? She said, I don't know if we'll have enough. And once we gained clarity, actually, once she did her taxes, she found out she made, I think it was like $400,000 more this last year than the year prior. And she was living like she was making less than she made the year prior. And so once we got that clarity, we can make decisions. She borrowed so much stress that wasn't even like, there was no teeth to the stress. It was just all kind of made up inside. And because that's a lack of clarity. So finding out like where you actually are financially, we have clients that it'll take them 3 weeks working with us before they even can build up the courage to open their account and see how much money they have in there. And that's just because, and most of the time they have more in there than they realize. And so like those of you that are listening, if there's a financial task that you've been putting off because you're afraid of what you're going to see, open the stinking account and look, like, get clarity, because once you clarify, that'll give you the direction of where you need to go. And two, once you clarify, it's probably not as bad as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we make it into this bigger monster because it's like putting it in your closet, hoping that it will just vanish or go away. And it's just always in the back of your mind, and you have a hard time. It's hard to not think about it. And so just tackling it, it's like eating your frogs. I don't know if you've heard that term before, like eat your frog first thing in the morning. The thing that just you don't want to do, but you know you need to get it done. Because if you don't do it early on in the day, it's bugging you the whole time and you're not as productive on everything else. And so just tackle that financial task that you are putting off. You'll feel so much better just by doing it and taking one step, even if it's just opening that account. Because oftentimes it's really not as bad as you think it is. But even if it is bad, you're able to go and take the next steps.
Right. I know you guys know Kelsey Dickey as well. I had her on a few months, or when this comes out, it'll be a few months ago that she will be on. And ever since that, one of the things that has come up in every single conversation that I've had with other coaches is this concept of something, you have two hards that you can choose between. Either the hard of not knowing what you're getting into, not even knowing what it was going to entail, or knowing it's going to be hard, but you know how to do it. And I think that, to your point of open up the bank account, it's easier to know, okay, this is what I'm working with, than to have no clue what your resources are and where you are and how much you've got to save or how much your debt is or anything else. It's that clarity standpoint of, this isn't going to be easy, but I at least know where I'm starting. I know where I need to go. I just got to figure out how to get there. And so many people, they are scared of what they don't know because they don't know how to deal with it once they find out what it is. So they just, keep putting it off, keep closing the door on it, keep ignoring it. And it only gets worse if you keep doing that, because you're just going to keep piling on. You add to the stress. You continue to lose your confidence. We've all experienced just that snowball of negative emotions that can come out of, and you get to the point where you almost give up. You don't even care. You're like, this isn't ever going to happen. And that's just the way that it ends up. So there's so much value to facing the fear and getting clarity so you can take action and accomplish your goals. And I think we could probably spend an entire conversation just talking about that itself, because there's so much that comes out of it. I do want to jump back several minutes ago to something that really caught my attention and what you said. It was around the friction. Because I feel like there's good friction and there's bad friction whenever it comes to managing your money. I think you kind of alluded to that. And as I was thinking through, how I could kind of play into this, the thought that popped in my head, whenever you think of someone doing a woodworking project and they're sanding that wood, it's a brand new hard grain piece of wood. And you're going to start out with 100 grain sandpaper that's going to be rough and coarse and hard to rub, and just you're going to keep working on that. But it's a good friction. It's very, very difficult, but it's a good friction, because as you continue rubbing that, continue doing that practice, that was going to start getting softer and smoother. You're going to be able to go down in sandpaper grain to where you're polishing a piece of wood with 1,000 grain sandpaper, and it feels good. It feels natural. It feels right. But it's a journey to go from that good friction of, oh, I'm not used to this. This hurts, and I got to keep doing this, to all of a sudden, whew, this is kind of nice. I can get used to this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. Is it the four stages of, is it behavior change? Is it the hierarchy of growth?
Yeah.
So is right into the hierarchy of growth. You start out and you don't realize you don't know how to do something. And that's where the grit of the sandpaper is like, and like it's very uncomfortable. And then slowly but surely, if you keep working at it, you get to the place where you do have a really nice sanded down piece of system that you can put into place,
where it feels very natural.
Feels natural. It looks great.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be easy. And that's one thing I would say. Any of your listeners, Austin, that have had a call with you to see if you were a good fit or if they were a good fit, and they thought, you know what, I'll just listen to Austin on his podcast and I'll get what I need. The fact of the matter is, we used to be in an information age, and now we're in a transformation age. So for those of you, I want to call you out. If you've talked to Austin and you were going to hire him, but then you decided that you could probably do it on your own. First of all, I want to ask, how's that going? Second of all, I want to say you need transformation. Information is not going to change you. Application of knowledge is what creates transformation. So I want to encourage you to schedule another call with Austin if you're taking more clients. And I want you to get on his calendar, because if you don't actually put this stuff into action, it's not going to help you at all. And there's so much on YouTube that you can bring in so much knowledge, but putting that knowledge into action is the most important thing. So we're sitting in our company shed quarters right now. This is the shed that Amberlee and I built. I can look out, I can see the sliding glass door to go into our house, but we bought a plan online, and that plan told us everything to do. And we had all the information we needed, and we started working on it. And to build this shed took us 2.5 years.
Longer than we wanted.
However, had we hired somebody to put our plan into action or help us, even side by side, this project should have taken like 2 months rather than 2 years.
Oh man.
And so that's where coaching really speeds up the process. So you could try DIYing it, and most people do, but if you actually work with somebody like Austin, the amount of time that you save, the amount of money that you save by spending money on coaching, it's just phenomenal. We have so many clients that look back and be like, wow, that was helpful. Like, I can't imagine where I'd be without this. And so that's just a little plug for Austin, because I know he's probably not going to say that to you. Fill up his calendar. Fill it up today.
Thank you for that, James. Yes, I will take more discovery calls any week of the month for sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because as of this recording, like last week, I had a post on Facebook talking about the fact that every successful person that I have talked to, that I read about, that I have researched, they have had a coach or a mentor help get them where they are. Not a single one of them has done it completely on their own. Now they have necessarily hired every single coach that they have worked with. They have had some that they have, read their book or they have studied their course, but a lot of them have someone that they have worked one-on-one with to learn the systems, to learn the steps, and that has helped them just dramatically expedite their process. And at the end of that post, I had a comment about, financial management and getting ahead with money is a long process as it is. Don't stretch it out by trying to do it on your own. Find someone who has done it, who knows the steps, and who can help you get there a lot faster. You're going to be way better off doing that. So appreciate you calling that out. And there is something about being in that position where, going back to everything we've said about this entire conversation, you're scared, you don't know what to do, you want to do better, but you're having a hard time believing in yourself. Do you guys feel like it is scarier to be in that state and try to figure it out, or to ask someone for help and enter the process of accomplishing that? Which do you think is harder for someone to do?
I think it depends on the person. I think there's some people that asking for help and really like being honest with themselves is incredibly hard. I'd say that's something that I struggle with personally. Mm-hmm. And some people, they have a really easy time asking for help. So I think it really does depend on the person and what they're like, how they tick. Like if they are super self-reliant, it's going to be a lot harder to raise their hand and be like, I actually need support in this.
I would say that it's easier to ignore your problems and let them fester if you don't have help. And so while it might feel easier for the first year or two, you're going to get to a point where that blister is going to pop.
Yeah. And trying to DIY it, the hard part is
and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. There's so much information out there. I mean, you just do a simple Google search, you go to the library or any bookstore and look at the financial books. There are thousands of them, and all of them have different ideas, and a lot of them conflict with each other. And you get yourself into this place where you go into more research and then you're more confused because you realize, well, is this person right or is this person right? And then going back and forth, and like it just becomes more of a jumbled mess. And it's hard to know, like, is this person trustworthy that they're reading? And I think that's one of the things that, working with a financial coach is not everyone has the time or wants to spend the time reading all of these books, trying to sift through it, determining what would actually work for them. Like, that's what we do. Like, we go through it and we spend the time figuring out what works. We put it into practice. Our goal is to help people not just read a book. I love reading. And I sometimes get caught up in just reading books for the information and doing nothing about it. But then it's not beneficial. It's just more head knowledge. And we don't need more head knowledge. We need to take action. And so, if you are, trying to piece things together, it can work, but it can be more confusing. It can be more, it can bring you to so many different rabbit holes that could take you down paths that you might not want to go.
Yeah, I think back to building this shoffice. We call it our shoffice, our company shed quarters. And I'm looking at the window right now, and that was one of the things that we were trying to figure out how to do. And I would watch video after video after video, and they would all say to do it differently. And it just paralyzed me because I had all the information, like way too much information, and it caused me to not move forward. And that's where I once had somebody who wanted to work with me, and he says, well, what am I going to get working with you over me just doing it myself? And I said, well, here's the reality. I can give you a stack of the 20 different books that we've used throughout the almost 20 years of us helping people with their finances. I can give you that stack and you'll have all the knowledge you need. But I will say that there's quite a few things in each one of those books that I probably wouldn't recommend, and that I found in practicality, it doesn't work. And so you'll need to make sure that you figure out what to do and what not to do based on all those books. And then actually you need to have some accountability to actually do it and put it into practice. And so I would say that the difference of doing it yourself and doing it with me is you get accountability, and you get somebody who has seen hundreds and hundreds of people putting this stuff into practice and knowing what works and what doesn't, and when it doesn't work for one person, we can adjust and make it a different way. That's the thing about personal finances, is it's just that, it's personal. And too many people have a black and white approach and say that these are the 7 things you have to do in order to be successful with your money. Well, what if you don't want to do 2 or 3 of those? Then you usually just throw that whole plan out. So what we do as coaches, I'm sure, Austin, you do the same thing, is we find something that's sustainable specifically for that individual. And it's a very individualized plan. And we can get them, what works from one person does not always work for the other person. And that's what we bring to the table as coaches, is the experience of working with so many different people, that we can help you. If this doesn't work for you, we can find a different thing that will.
Having been through so many coaching programs myself, it is a night and day difference. Even like you said, if you have all the information, even if it's from, one source, and they lay out everything for you, which, we can do for our clients as well. We can have a course, we can have whatever the case is, but there is just something about getting personalized support, taking that concept and applying it to your particular situation. I will gladly pay 10 times more for someone's insight and feedback than their information every single day of the week, because you gain so much more out of that that's applicable, helps move the needle, gives you the confidence that you need. And you're right in that money is so personal. It's sometimes, I think, hard for people to say, well, I want to talk to someone else about this. I want to have this conversation and share my concerns and everything. But whenever you flip that around, what will happen if you don't get someone else's insight and feedback? Are you just going to keep doing the same thing over and over because you don't know what those holes are and those gaps are, and why this thing isn't working for you? Well, maybe you need to tweak and adjust a little bit to make it work for you. Money is extremely personal. It's extremely customized to your goals. And there's foundational strategies and practices and management pieces that just across the board work. But you get into the nuts and bolts and weeds of it, and I can promise you that you guys' budgeting is different from my budgeting, is different from my client's budgeting. Just those little intricacies of how you use those foundational principles. And that is a value, in my opinion, of a coach, is having someone that can show you, this is how you can win with this strategy, with this tool. And when you're not winning, I'm going to help you figure out why you're not winning, so you don't just get frustrated and lose sight of it all.
We have
clients. You guys have brought so much goodness to this.
Well, kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, we have so many clients that come to us at the beginning thinking, well, you're going to think I'm crazy for the way I spend my money. And their whole thought process is, when I come to you, you're going to tell me how to spend my money, and it's going to look like the way you spend your money. But we tell our clients all the time, like, we're not going to think you're crazy for spending the way that you spend, so long as it lines up with your values and what's important to you.
Right.
The only time I tell my clients that you're crazy for spending that way is when it doesn't line up with what's important to them. And I have things that are different, that are important to me than all of my clients. Austin, you mentioned this, like, our budgets are not going to look alike because we have things that are so different. And so being okay with not spending money the same way as somebody else is one of the biggest ways to get content with your finances. And and making sure that your values align with your spending. That's the key to not feeling like you're living a restricted life, because you're not restricting spending, you're reducing waste. And that's what's really important. And it's not about making sure that you're spending the same way that your coach does or that your neighbor does, because we're so different. we are so different.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the three things that you would tell someone that they need to ask about or be conscientious about when they are looking for a coach to have to find someone that's the right fit for them that can help them?
The first thing that comes to mind is, if what you are having me do isn't working for me, like, how are you gonna deal with that? So if
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also like having someone that you feel like you can be open and honest with, that won't be judging you. I think someone who you just feel like you click with. And I think that's one of the nice things about, like with us, our clients, if they want to see if they want to work with us, if they get a free 20-minute call and to see if there is that connection, because pretty quickly you can see, like, is this someone who is like my person, the person that I want as my accountability partner? Because there's sometimes that it's just like, it's not a good fit. And you need to just find out, like, do you feel like this person, you would want them to be the one keeping you accountable, the one that like you are bearing your not your soul but your pocketbook of like sharing, this is what's going on in my financial life, and you want to be able to feel comfortable and confident with the person that you choose to do that with. And so I think making sure that you have that connection with them, that you feel like you can trust them, do your due diligence, read up about them, look at what they're doing on social media, see what really like makes them tick, ask questions if you have any of them, like how do they get paid, like all the different things. Like there's so many questions you can ask, and I feel like just ask the questions, and if they are willing to answer them, that also means they're probably someone who is going to be a good coach, because they're willing to answer those questions and not just ignore them.
I think a good question for you to ask somebody that you're thinking about hiring as a coach is, why am I a good fit for you? Because so many times a lot of people are coming into this thinking, is this the right person for me? But from a coach's perspective, is that person right for them? And a good coach, if you're not a good fit for them, a good coach will say, you know what, honestly, we're probably not a good fit, but I do have somebody that I think would fit really well for you. And then for them being able to kind of outline and repeat back to you, they understand your struggle, they understand where you are, and they'll be able to take you from that point to a place of confidence and less stress.
That is so powerful, because anytime you are working with someone with their finances, you're going to get super personal. And if you don't feel like that person can be your, honestly, kind of your best friend, be someone that you can bear your secrets to, that you can be honest and transparent with, and that you trust they are going to guide you to a place of confidence, it's not going to work. Some of my best clients, we are friends before we're clients almost, because we know so much about each other. We're asking about family and about life and about work and all these things that play into finances, and having that relationship where you trust what they're going to tell you and you can tell them anything. There's so much value to that not every single person is going to have that connection. So I think that's extremely helpful to bridge the gap and make that be mutually beneficial. What is is there anything else that you guys feel is relevant or beneficial to our conversation that you want to bring up before we wrap up today?
I don't know. I think one of the big things is just knowing that those who are coaching, especially in the financial realm, we do it because we love it. Like, we love working with people, and there's just something that clicks inside of us when we get to see the confidence of our clients just increase significantly. We've had a lot of people that got so much value out of coaching that they're like, how can I get to a point that I can do this? I want to coach people. Like, I've even had people who, they were part of one of our workshops, and they came up and they said, I love what you're doing. I want to hire you, but I also want to work for you because this is amazing. So if you're listening to this podcast because you love helping people with personal finances, there are not enough financial coaches. Like, we need more financial coaches. And so don't feel like we're going to think that you're competition, because there's so many people that need help, that if you love helping people with finances, start helping your friends right now, and get to that place where you can become your own financial coach. And I'm sure eventually Austin and us, we're going to get to a place that we need to hire more financial coaches. And so, just, I don't know. The big thing is we love.
And each coach has such a unique approach and perspective and system. And, like I said before, there's fundamentals that we're all going to teach, but I can almost guarantee you that whoever works with me is going to learn something different than if they work with you, and would be a different type of fit. Just, we are so unique in how we serve and how we provide. We're going to help you accomplish the exact same thing, but just like any good business, you're going to find a unique person and a unique coach with every person that you talk to, I feel like.
Yeah. Did you have anything you want
Amberlee, you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think we pretty well covered things.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Where can folks connect with you guys more, learn about you, work with you? How can they find you online?
So on Facebook, Rich Living Coaching, you can search there. Also, a lot of content comes from Amberlee's personal Facebook, and that's Amberlee Rich. That's AMBERLEE RICH. And
we're on TikTok and on Instagram at Rich Living Coaching.
Yep. And then for those of you that we've got the wait list going for Steward Lab. It's leans very heavily towards the Christian side of things. And so if that interests you, that's something that we'll have available very soon, but the wait list is up. And
yeah, it's a self-paced,
loving approach.
Yes. To coaching, financial coaching.
Finances.
Yeah. And then you can check us out at richlivingcoaching.com. And if you'd like to connect with us and have a free 20-minute chat, it's richlivingcoaching.com. Is it // I always so bad with the / meet.
Yeah.
Not like the meat you eat, like MEET.
We've been doing a lot of fun financial experiments that we've been blogging about. One of the latest ones is we did taxes 3 different ways, all at the same time. And
that was mind blowing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. And it was like $2,700 and I think $70 something difference depending on the tax software we used. Plugging the same numbers, doing it side by side at the same time.
Yeah. Right now we're working on
that has to be somehow illegal for them. I don't know how. There's something wrong there.
I don't know. And the fact of the matter is, even though we were doing it side by side, it may be user error, and it may be, and that's the thing about hiring a professional. This just goes back to why hiring a professional for something is so important. There were a lot of things we didn't do to code on this thing that we brought in an inspector. We had to get it fixed. We had to go back and fix it. And with taxes, we recommend using a professional, because even though we had all the information, plugging it in, we still didn't get it 100% correct. And then one step further, that's why a coach is so important. Mm-hmm. If you're struggling with your finances, and struggle looks different for everybody. Maybe struggle for one person is they can't pay their bills, while struggle for another person is they're not funding their goals fast enough. Like they're doing everything right, but they're just not putting more money aside that they want to. Then work with a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Everything goes back to you need a coach.
Right. That's all the free stuff you get. For more information, visit richlivingcoaching.com/meet. Oh man, I tell you what, I have had so much fun doing these episodes with other financial coaches. Thank you guys are one of the last ones in this series, because we all have such a heart and a passion for what we do. Like you said, James, it's something we love. We love helping people. We love talking about money, which makes us weird, which is good because it allows us to accomplish some really big dreams in our lives and our clients' lives. But even more than that, sharing ideas and concepts and insights and knowing that every single one of us, like I said earlier, is going to teach the same thing, but has a very different approach, pattern, system, perspective. And because finances are so customized and so personal, there's some of us for everyone. I mean, there's people that will be served by each one of us. So the chance to exchange those ideas, and I learned stuff from you guys today that I can kind of take back to my clients and apply just all of those unique nuances of talking about money, relating to money, understanding it, real life applications. I have enjoyed, so I hope that everyone who's listening has enjoyed that as well. And just cannot thank you guys enough for taking time out of your day to be on here, to share those stories and those wisdom. And I hope that we get a chance to stay connected and get to know each other even better this year.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey folks, did you find today's episode valuable? If so, I would truly appreciate it if you left a 5-star review and shared the episode with a friend. My goal is to help as many couples as possible in their journey to gaining complete control of their money. Also, I have a free gift that I want to share with you for taking the time to listen to today's show. I have a brand new video training that outlines 5 steps for making a budget that will give you true financial freedom. In this training, I share how you can create a budget in a matter of minutes and make it easy to implement. Who doesn't want that, right? You'll learn what categories you need to cover all the bases each month and how to protect yourself against financial stress. You can access your free gift at freedommoneycoach.com/budget guide. That's freedommoneycoach.com/budget guide.